Mr. Timothy Boon is standing right in front of me right now. Would you please shortly explain what you do, where you're from, and why are you at Science and You 2015?
I'm Tim Boon. I work at the Science Museum in London. I'm in charge of research and public history. I'm here because I'm very interested in the public culture of science. So I'm interested in how science operates within public culture. And so I work on various aspects of that question. So two things. Today I've been talking about the history of science programming on British television. So I've been talking about two science programs from the 1950s and 1960s. One called Look, which is a natural history program, which lasted for about 13 years. And I also talked about a program called Eye on Research, which ran for about 5 years from 1957. So they are respectively the first natural history regular series on British television and the first science and engineering program on British television. So I've been working on science on television for many years.
When you know about this former educational TV series, what do you think about today's science coverage in television?
My view is that the styles and grammar of science television originate a long way back. So that's why I work on the very early periods, the periods in which science television got established, because all the conventions, or the vast majority of the conventions, were established within about 10 or 15 years.
If you have that knowledge and you compare it to today's media coverage on television about science, do you think it's better? Do you think it's worse than in former times? What do you think?
What happened with science television in Britain, and I can't speak for other countries, but what happened in Britain was that throughout the 1950s and into the 1960s, organised scientists wanted to control science on television. So they sent deputations to meet the head of the BBC to say, put a scientist in charge of science television. And the producers in making the science programs for the BBC said, no, this isn't about science, this is about making television programs.
Entertainment.
Yes. Well, no, it's about the crafts and skills of the television producer. And they basically say, look, we're the people who know how to make television programs, so leave it to us. Now, in the mid-1960s, that was a much more respectful society. And so when they said, leave it to us, they were still very respectful of science and scientists. But over the 50 years since then, we've been through a social revolution. And the result is that science has to be much more responsive to the general culture, I believe, than was the case in the 1960s. Yeah, yes, that's right. But also, television has also gained its own momentum. And what's happened in television, although a lot of formats for television were established a long time ago, television has become much more format-driven. And something happened in the 1990s, I believe, where those televisual values sort of overflowed. And there was a moment at which everybody had to use Hollywood story structure in the making of their science programming. And it seems perfectly clear that that dominance of televisual style led to quite a distortion of the way that science was represented on television. Because you had to have those preset moments. You had to have the introduction. You had to have the moment of jeopardy. You had to have the moment of conclusion. And actually, a lot of real documentary stories out there just don't fit that rubric. So I would say that, in a way, television got a little bit too powerful for itself.
Okay, let's wrap this up. How are your impressions about the Science and You 2015 in Nancy?
I think it's an extraordinarily diverse group of people.
which is good.
Yeah, which is very good. I mean, there are people here whose core business is science communication, and that's probably most of the people. And we've got the trade show in the big space downstairs with all these different companies selling different toolkits and approaches to science communication. And then there's a wide range of people. I don't think there are many historians here, but I don't mind. It's been very interesting meeting a lot of different people.
We also need them.
So, why do you think people, or like us, or we as students, should study science communication, and is it worth it, and is it needed?
In our society, everybody needs to communicate well, and I think there's a huge amount for everyone to learn about what it means to communicate well and to communicate science well. I'm here as an emissary from history, and what I would say is that I think that we can learn a huge amount about how to do science communication well in the present by paying attention to how people have done it in the past.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Boon, for the interview.
Pleasure.
And I'm excited to go through your museum.
I hope you enjoy your visit.
Yeah, I will.